All right, Narendra here with 14ers Planning. Thank you guys for joining today. Today is basically an intro to 14er, so we're just going to talk about the basics. By now, you guys should have all your login information to the site and also to our store in case you need gear and things like that. You should also have access to like all the downloads and things like that. But if you don't, shoot me a message and I can get all that stuff over to you. So I'm really excited to start here. This is one of the first lessons, and definitely feel free to reach out if you have any questions. So let's jump right into it. So for those who don't know what a 14er is, it's pretty straightforward, but a lot of people are new to the area, new to hiking, new to climbing, so let's just go through the basics. So 14er is anything that rises above 14,000 feet above sea level. There are 96 peaks in the United States, and there's up to 58, depending on who you talk to, in Colorado. I prefer just to climb all of them, so some people stick to a 53 rule, some people stick to a 56 rule, but in my mind there are 58 total in Colorado, so I climbed all of them. And I would encourage you to do the same if you want, if that's in your goal list, which is great. If not, that's totally cool too. But you'll hear people say that there are 53, and that's because they're using a rule of prominence, which means that the mountain next to the other one has to rise 300 feet. But all of that is just whatever you want to make of it. It's just something that I wanted to make you aware of. So anyway, there are 58 14ers in Colorado, and from there's hundreds of routes up to the summit of them all, and a lot of them range from very easy, like the slopes of Mount Huron, to extreme, like the classic diamond on Long's Peak. So there are just many different ways to get up them. And then another rule that people kind of go with, and again, this is up to you on whether you want to do this, is the 3,000 foot rule, which means that you don't technically summit a 14er until you hike 3,000 feet. But whatever you want to make of it. So these are just some guidelines to go by. I personally sometimes have not followed the 3,000 foot rule, and it's totally okay. No one's going to judge you for that. But just know that it's out there, and people talk about it. Okay, so where are the Colorado 14ers? And what are the different mountain ranges? So if you can see my pointer here, there are basically five different mountain ranges for 14ers. There's the Front Range, there's the Sawatch Range, the Elk Range, the San Juans, and the Sangre de Cristos. This little range here is, I guess, technically the Mosquito Range, although I consider it all the front. But regardless, in the Front Range, you have all the mountains like Pikes Peak to the south, which you can see from just about any Front Range vantage point, and Long's Peak to the north, which is technically located in Estes Rocky Mountain National Park, and Mount Evans. And as you move west, you reach the Sawatch Range, which contains the mountains like Democrat, Lincoln, Bros. These are all fairly easy mountains here. And then the Sawatch Range, which runs north-south from basically Vail down to Salida. These are where the actual highest 14ers are located, including Mount Albert, which is right about there, which is the highest peak in Colorado. A lot of these are basically fairly easy to climb, although there are some longer days, but good mountains nevertheless. And then you move into the Elk Range, which is arguably the most dangerous mountain range in Colorado. And you have the peaks like the Maroon Bells, which are called the Deadly Bells, Capitol Peak, Snowmass, all pretty serious mountains to climb. If you're not into third and fourth class type climbing yet, you want to probably avoid these for now. And as you move southwest, you run into the San Juans, which are my favorite mountain ranges for the 14ers. It's a huge area that goes basically from Creed all the way to the western boundary of our state. And you have mountains like the Mount Wilson and things like that. in there. So really cool mountain range, very unique geology, and definitely a cool place to check out. And then the Sangre de Cristos, if you move further east, this has a mixed bag of 14ers. You have peaks like Crestone Needle and Crestone Peak, which are very technical, to easier mountains like Humboldt Peak. But just a really cool mountain range because it's the geology is so different. It's made of this conglomerate type rock, which makes the hiking and climbing a lot more interesting. So if you're not going to climb all the peaks, I would still recommend that you go to all of these little towns and areas, beautiful, beautiful areas in Colorado that you can explore without even climbing any of these peaks. So definitely go check these areas out. All right, so the skills that you need to climb all 58 14ers. And again, if this is really based on what your objectives are. If you want to climb just one 14er, awesome. If you want to climb all of them, great. If you want to climb all of them by the hardest routes, that's really cool. But this is where your objectives comes in, and where you really got to think about what you're doing here. But if you do want to climb all 58 of the 14ers, you're going to need all of these skills. So in general, the more fit you are, the easier it is for you to climb all these peaks. If all else fails, you have fitness, and fitness is probably the most important part about climbing these peaks. Of course, knowledge and everything else is important too, but fitness you can get out of a lot of situations just because you're fit. The second thing is you need mental toughness. So you need to wake up sometimes at 2 a.m. Some of these peaks are really long approaches to get to, like Long's Peak, for example. It's 15 miles round trip, so you can't start at like 6 or 7 in the morning because you get in danger of thunderstorms and things like that, plus just the crowd. So sometimes you have to wake up at 2 a.m., you have to get out of your tent or out of your car when it's still dark, you have to put a headlamp on, it's cold, so you have to have some mental toughness for this. And then, of course, there's climbing technique, which if you do the harder mountains, the class 3, class 4 type routes, you'll need to know how to climb at least at the basic level. And then experience. So I should add experience or education, and this is where I'm coming in to help you. So if you were just to go out by yourself, like I was explaining in the very intro to all this, it would take you 10 to maybe 15 years to get all the experience you need. So what I'm trying to do is to help you help expedite the learning process so you can anticipate things. But the more experience, obviously, that you get, the better you're going to be able to read the mountains, read the weather patterns, understand what looks dangerous and what doesn't. So experience is definitely helpful along with education. And then survival skills, which again I'll help you with. You have to understand what you might need to spend the night. Even if the weather looks good to start off with, you have to carry the right gear and understand how to survive in situation. And then navigational skills, you're guaranteed to get lost at least once. I've gotten lost many times, so you have to just keep your composure and know the skills to get out of a certain situation and to get back to your car or campsite. So these are basically the overview of the skills you need. I'm not going to do a deep dive into each one of these right now. The following sections will cover all of this in a lot more detail, and there's going to be some videos and other downloadable resources for you to use. So sit tight on that. This is just the intro. And so the next section here, what to expect during each season. This is the most common question that I get, and I want to cover it, right now during this intro section, and then we'll dive in a lot deeper in the subsequent sections. So basically, the first question is, when can I, start climbing these 14ers? Well, you have to be patient, first of all, and you have to have skills, and you have to have certain equipment if you want to do it early in the year. So I've basically broken this down into, basically different seasons of the year in Colorado, because they all wildly vary. So in general, December through March, you're going to get a lot of snow. December is, I think, the most snowy time of the year. In March is the second, or you can reverse those. But regardless, you're going to get feet and feet and feet of snow in the mountains. So if you don't have the correct gear, when you try to climb these peaks, you're going to be in for a miserable day and even put yourself in a pretty dangerous situation if you just show up with like boots or hiking shoes or something like that. You're really not going to make it very far. And also the roads close a lot earlier, and you have to hike in, a lot further in these months. So basically, mandatory. What I put mandatory is avalanche classes for sure. Avalanche danger is really, really high, and you have to either have some sort of flotation. You have to have snowshoes or skis. I prefer skis, just because it's a lot quicker. But we'll get into that also. And then you have to have obviously warm weather gear. It's very cold. If you look at these guys to the right, they're waist deep in snow. They're way over their head, almost literally, with what they're doing, and that can't be very fun. And then also you need to be prepared to spend the night. So if you are going to try some of these 14ers, you have to have a tent and things like that. April and June is where the snow starts to consolidate a little bit more. In general, there's still definitely avalanche danger. However, it's quote unquote safer to go out during this time. So mandatory, you have to have some sort of micro spikes or crampons and an ice axe. I carry that with me, through June and sometimes July, depending on the season. Recommended overnight camping because again, the roads are still closed in a lot of the areas until at least May 31st. So you're going to be adding on a lot of mileage, so you might consider staying overnight. And then recommended, it's always good to take avalanche classes, level 1 and level 2, and I can recommend some places for that, and we're actually going to be offering one of these next year as well. And then just a side note, this is the best backcountry skiing time frame, so if you're into that or want to get into that, just keep that in mind. So July through October is definitely the most popular time for people to hike 14ers, and August probably being the most popular. This is where you're going to see literally hundreds of people going up hikes like Long's Peak and Bierstadt and Quandary. The weather is definitely more predictable. The snow is mostly gone, and you get a lot more favorable conditions to hike up and to drive to. So you're going to see droves and droves of people hiking there. And as a side note, I'm going to teach you guys exactly how to avoid the crowds, to make your life to make it a lot better experience in the backcountry. But regardless, sometimes you're going to need an ice axe and micro spikes. Because sometimes some of these peaks you have to climb up snowfields regardless. And then also warm weather gear, and I should also add rain gear as well. Storms are like clockwork here in Colorado. It'll be really nice during the morning, and at night it will be, in the afternoon at around 1 o'clock, you're going to start to see these thunderstorms build up. And November is a completely mixed bag, and actually so is May for that matter. May, sometimes we get these huge snowstorms, but November is we either get no snow or it seems like or a lot of snow. And so what I typically do is mountain bike or something, or take a month off of climbing 14ers. But you can climb these all year round is my point, with the right skills and safety, and that's a lot more detail that I'll get into right now. All right, and then kind of the last topic I want to cover for now is climatizing to 14,000 feet. And this is where your training hikes are going to come in to be so important. So if you follow these training hikes, you're going to do just fine. But basically, you want to keep your fitness up. So if you're working 9 to 5, like a lot of people do, and like I do, and everything else, you're going to want to get on some sort of program where you're walking, you're running, you're biking daily. You want to strengthen your legs, you want to stretch, you want to keep your fitness up for sure. If you're just sitting around all week and then going out for a hike on the weekend expecting to perform pretty well, you're probably not going to. And so definitely follow those training hikes that I'm giving out to you guys, and let's check in every week and see how you're doing. And then the second is eating healthy, and this goes along with fitness. So keeping a balanced diet, balanced meals, avoiding things like sugars and high carbohydrates and things like that will really go a long way in it, especially if you're bringing the proper food with you on a hike. And then there's nothing wrong with supplements, vitamins, and there's a couple other things I can recommend that you take with you on your hike. that'll make you actually a lot stronger and a lot more efficient hiker. Um, and then a big part of acclimatizing that I consider is testing your gear. You do not want to go out and start hiking these 14ers or really any significantly long trail without testing your footwear and your backpack. Those are the two most important things to test. The rest of the stuff you can kind of get away with here and there, or replace it later. But if you're into a 12-mile hike and your feet start to rub and you start to get blisters, you're going to have a miserable time getting back. And your backpack also, although not as much as your footwear, your backpack can make your back sore, and it can make you really miserable. So definitely start off slow and hike with this stuff. If you just bought it, hike with it, see how it is, and upgrade if you need to. And then the last thing, which I don't think very many people talk about, is hiking above 11,500 feet. So that's really where tree line is. And what I've found is that, and this is scientifically proven, if you hike above this elevation consistently, so every week, for example, you're going to actually generate more red blood cells, and that will carry more oxygen and make you more efficient. So the more time you can spend above 11,500 feet or above tree line, or near there anyway, you are going to do much better than people that just go up once every month and try to hike these 14ers. You're just going to move more efficiently, and that's just scientifically proven. Your lungs are going to be better, blood flow is going to be better, circulation, everything. It's going to make for an awesome time. And then just the last thing that I want to show you here, and you have this in your downloads. If not, and if you can't find it, shoot me an email. But basically, this is your 14ers checklist. And so this is a dynamic list, basically, that has all the 14ers, the elevation, what mountain range they're in, and then I have a personally ranked difficulty system, so you can actually filter all this stuff since it's in Excel. So you can actually start planning on which 14ers you want to do first, along with a recommended route, and then the class, which we will get into a lot more detail. I'll explain what all these numbers mean, exposure, and then probably the most important parts are the round trip elevation elevation gain and round trip mileage, which is super important for planning. And then some other cool bonuses like the most adventurous route for when you guys are ready for it, and some other things. So that really concludes just the intro type section. Below, you're going to see a lot of these downloads and a couple other videos on more detailed explanations of first aid and hiking poles and a lot of other things. So dig in for sure. Rewatch this if you can, and we'll talk to you real soon on our group call. So hope you guys have a great day. I think the first hike that we have planned for you is Bill Couch Mountain. So take a look at that in detail. Plan some time, a couple hours to do that during this week, and let's regroup and see how you're feeling.